Hey everybody, it's Dave and Olive. Thanks for joining us here at Book Blather, where we talk about the books we've read recently to help spread the joy of reading, or in some cases, the books we've acquired recently. So today, we've got a major used book haul for you. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We went to a used book fair and we have a mega haul we want to show you. Real quick, before we jump into that, we just wanted to say that Olive and I were a little bit overwhelmed by the reception to the video that we just posted this past Friday. The weekend turned out to be a little bit different than we thought. It was a little bit of an emotional weekend for us. We got so many comments and resharing of the video and people doing their own versions, and we were just taken a little bit back by it. And so we just really wanted to thank you all so much. We got so many nice comments, both publicly and privately. People continue to send us messages, and we just want to thank everyone so much for all the kind words and for supporting the sentiment, and let's keep spreading the kindness. Okay, so we'll jump into this. So if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know that each summer we go to a local used book fair. It's pretty close to us. It's in Southport, Connecticut. It's called the Pequot Library Book Fair, and it's one of the biggest book fairs in New England. It's really huge. We'll show you a little bit here so you get an idea of it. Okay, so here we're rolling into downtown Southport, which is the town that Pequot Library is located. After you go through downtown, you kind of go through into this back area. It's really pretty back here. And as you can see on the right-hand side here, there's the Pequot Library, along with the tents that they have set up specifically for the fair. Now, here we're walking up, and as you can see, it's a multi-day affair, so the prices adjust as the days go on, and it gets a little cheaper, but it's always pretty inexpensive. That building is the Pequot Library itself. They have some stuff in there, but then they have these tents that they set up. It's hard to see, but the tent in the front is a small tent, and then there's what they call the large tent in the back there. And so they have signs up here on the library itself, and what they call the auditorium that's inside the library, that have special stuff, rare things, erotica, exotica, stuff they want to keep an eye on, I guess. You can see they have most stuff is in the large tent, including all the stuff most of the stuff we're interested in. And then in the front small tent, they have some less popular things, like cookbooks and the occult, and mostly other media like records and DVDs and things. So here we are going into you enter through the small tent here, and as you can see, there are plenty of books in there, but like I said, they're kind of probably what I would characterize as less popular categories. But up on the right-hand side here, you can see that a lot of what this tent is the other forms of media. They have boxes and boxes of DVDs and old records and things like that. But now we're coming up, as you pass through this archway, we're coming into the large tent. And I cut out a lot of this footage because I realized I had done the footage. Been moving too quickly, and I was giving myself a headache when I was watching it back, so I don't want to give you a headache. But this will give you a quick idea. You can see it goes way back. And it's broken into these general categories, but otherwise there's a science fiction, otherwise there's no organization, so you just have to hunt. And as you can see, there's tables and tables just lined with books. And so, as I've said before, when I leave the book fair, it's not because I'm done looking and I found everything that I want. I leave when I can't carry anymore. The stuff is very inexpensive. And there's just so much stuff there. You're bound to find tons of stuff that you like. So fortunately this year, my daughter likes the bookshop too. So we went together, and even her, she's had to leave after a while because I'm there for hours and hours. So I was lucky that we went together, and I was able to fill up a bag, and then she left. I could put the bag in the car full of books and go back in with another bag, and then they picked me up later. So we got a lot this time. I mean, we got everything. We got like every kind of book this time. This is no doubt the biggest haul that we've ever done. And so we got a little of everything. We got some horror, some sci-fi, some fantasy, some literary fiction, some nonfiction, some graphic novels. So we're excited to show it to y'all. I'm going to try to do it really quick in one shot here, but it's possible, depending how long it goes, that we may need to split this in two. I'm going to try to be quick, but we all know me. So, all right, so here we go. Maybe Olive's going to keep me on a good pace, right, Olive? You can keep me on a good pace? Yeah? Okay. She's going to do her best. So, the first one is a horror novel, Richard Laymon Cuts. And this is like a lot of Richard Laymon novels. It's about so this is about a guy that's he's got an obsession with cutting women, and so I think he's on the run, but he continues to do it while he's on the run, and so that's actually going to be our first Richard Laymon novel, if you can believe that. Okay, so the next one is we got a few vintage science fiction fantasy stuff here. We got To Die in Italbar, I don't know how to pronounce this, by Roger Zelazny. This was published, I think, early 70s, and this is about 73. This is about, I don't know too much about it. It's about a guy that I think he's able to cure illness, but he's also like a repository for all the illnesses, I think. So he can cure people, but he can also accidentally cause deaths easily, and so he travels all over the place, I guess, to try to all over the galaxy or something to try to cure people. And so that's all I know about that one. Okay, so what do we do? How are we doing? We're keeping pretty quick, right? Okay, so the next one we got is The Power That Preserves by Stephen Donaldson. And so this is book 3 in a series. So as I've said before, we started reading a lot very late. So there are many things that we haven't read yet that we need to read, and some of those are classic fantasy series. And so that's, this is book 3 of the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, which is an older famous fantasy series that we should have read by now. So like I do with some things, I'm just gonna, when I see them, I do this with some other stuff too, like when I see them, books in the series, I'll just pick them up and just like put the series together that way, because it's not urgent, and then once I complete the series, then I'll read it. So this is the first one we got from this series, and so we'll be on the lookout for these to try to get the rest. Okay, and so the next one this was an unusual book. This is called Expanded Universe, Robert A. Heinlein. I'm sure everybody knows, a famous science fiction writer. This book, I didn't know too much about it, and I hadn't heard about it before. This book is like a amalgam of a bunch of different things. There's some fiction in here that had never before been in book form. There's some nonfiction, some different commentary from Heinlein, and so it's as you can see, it's pretty chunky, and so all sorts of different stuff in it. I don't know too much more about it than that, but Heinlein, so it certainly seemed interesting. Okay, and so we got a couple things related to Heinlein. Here's another vintage science fiction novel, Revolt in 2100. And so this is about dystopian sort of book, I think, where the U.S. is ruled by an evil, powerful dictator that controls everything with science, religion, and advanced science and psychology, and he's got a dedicated military, behind him. But I think it's about a revolt. Obviously, Revolt in 2100, or Revolt to topple that. Okay, and then another vintage science fiction Heinlein novel, Time Enough for Love. And this is about a guy, Lazarus Long, who basically loves living life so much he doesn't die. And so he lives, I think, for a couple millennia. And that's pretty much all I know about it. So, by the way, If we some of these books we don't know too much about, so if we say anything wrong, let us know in the comments. Or if you've read these and you think we should or shouldn't read them, definitely let us know. We picked up, like I said, all this stuff because it was so cheap. But if we don't have to read them if something's horrible. So definitely let us know in the comments. Okay, next we picked up a couple books from the DragonLance series. Wanderlust by Mary Kirchoff and Steve Winter, and The Oath and the Measure by Michael Williams. So this is, if you don't know, the DragonLance series is it's a famous fantasy series. We have a bunch of these books, but it started with the DragonLance Chronicles, which was about a group of misfits of different races that come together, of course, to try to stop this great evil that's spreading in the world. And it was wildly popular at the time. That came out in the 80s. And since then, this, what we have doesn't even compare to what's out there. I think it's up to like 190 books or something. Originally Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, but after the first couple trilogies, all sorts of other people started getting involved. And these books are from the Meeting Sextet series. Wanderlust is volume 2, and The Oath and the Measure is, volume 4. And these are about these tell stories earlier on in time, like when what the companions, the main characters in the DragonLance Chronicles that started all this, tells their earlier stories of when some of them were meeting or going on some early adventures. And so this one, Wanderlust, is a story of Tasselhoff Burfoot, who is a Kender. He's a comedic, lovable thief character, and this is when he first meets Flint Fireforge and Tanis Half-Elven, who are two other main characters. And this one tells an early story of Sturm Brightblade, who was one of the he also one of the companions, and he was a Salamnic knight, a very honorable figure that was trying to live in the mold of the noble knights of olden ages. Okay, and so the next thing we got was we actually, another fantasy series that we are embarrassed to say we haven't even touched yet is Game of Thrones. We've watched most of the TV series. Usually we like to read stuff first and then watch later, but here we just watch. So I haven't even finished that yet, so don't spoil anything for me. But I do plan to read the books, but I only had the first one, so they had the rest of them there. So cheap. I think these were like $1. So we just finished off the series. So it's book 2, A Clash of Kings. Book 3, A Storm of Swords. And book 4, A Feast for Crows. They were all in perfect condition, so now we have the complete. Well, at least the original 4 complete. Okay, and so the next one we found, which is Mike will be very excited about, is the best of Lovecraft, blood-curdling tales of horror and the macabre. And so this has some of Lovecraft's most famous horror stories: the Dunwich Horror, Color Out of Space, Shadow over Innsmouth. So we're pretty excited. We're actually going to start reading a few of those since they're short stories. Start reading a few right away. All right, the next one we picked up is this. This is one we've wanted to read the last 2 Christmases because we like to theme read. We like to read spooky stuff at Halloween and Christmas themed stuff in December. And so this is called The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. I hope I pronounced that right. But this book, this book is about a couple that is childless, that wants to have a child but can't, and one day they build a child, they build a snow child, and then like the next morning the snow child is gone, but a real child appears out of the woods, and so it's apparently a very emotional story, a little magic realism, I guess, fantasy, and so it's kind of hard to tell what's real and what's not. And so we hadn't even bought it, but we've wanted to read it the last 2 winters and just never got around to it. So we were glad we saw it, and we are going to read it this winter. Okay, The next one is what you would characterize as a science fiction novel, I guess. This is Lexicon by Max Barry. This just came out a couple of years ago, I think 2018. But and so we read Max Barry's first book many years ago called Jennifer Government, and we enjoyed that. And so this book is about, I'm not sure if I showed it, this book is about a future where, or an alternate timeline, something, where the words can kill, basically. And there's a powerful society that has categorized, a powerful group that has characterized overall society into different groups that can be influenced by different types of language, and so they come up with different, new words that can, control or kill people. And so, sound a really original concept, and so, so we definitely interested in reading that. This is one we've wanted to read. We've had on our TBR for a long time and never bought yet, but we're interested in reading. This is called Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood, of course, the author of The Handmaid's Tale. This is part of what's called a trilogy, the Mad Adam trilogy, but I don't think it's really a trilogy. I think they're all standalones. They're just set in the same world, I believe. But this Oryx and Crake, this is about a guy. It's about a apocalyptic tale about a guy that there's been a plague and everyone has died, including his best friend Crake and a love interest of both of theirs, this Oryx. And so his best friend Crake had become a mad scientist and created these children that so they're kind of human but not really. And so in this post-apocalyptic world, the main character of this story is walking around attending to these children of Crake people, they're called. And I think it flips back and forth in time between him wandering around in this post-apocalyptic world and him also remembering the old times with Crake and Oryx. Okay, so the next one we picked up is Milkman by Anna Burns. And this is a novel that came out of the UK that won the Booker Prize a couple years ago. And this is, I've heard different things about this book. I've heard obviously it won the Booker Prize, so a lot of people think it's phenomenal. I've also heard some people say it's pretty difficult to read. There's almost no paragraph breaks or things, and it's kind of a stream of conscious type of story. So I've been really curious about this one for a while. So, and this is about, it's kind of one of those told in more of a fable format where it's like an unnamed place, unnamed characters, but this woman who is a bit of a hermit that keeps to herself ends up being followed by this other character who's kind of, I think, like a notoriously violent character or something, but he takes an interest in her and follows it around, and it leads to a lot of rumors and innuendo about her, and so I don't know, it seemed very interesting, and especially because of the various things that have been said about it, we were interested in taking a look. All right, the next one, total change of total switch here, is this is a nonfiction. This is called Dreyer's English by Benjamin Dreyer, who is the copy chief at Random House. And so this is a couple books like this, these sort of books that talk about grammar and proper use of grammar and trends in grammar, and just books about prose interest me. And so that's what this is. And he's talking about the different rules and the different things that people think are rules, but apparently he does it with some humor and wit. And so it just seemed really interesting. Probably most people wouldn't like the book like this, but I do. So I picked that up. All right, next we picked up this we wanted to get for a while. This is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. And this is, these are basically Neil Gaiman's retellings of some Nordic myths. And so that's it. It's Neil Gaiman. Looks really good. I love Nordic myths. Love Neil Gaiman. So that's kind of no-brainer. I just hadn't bought it yet. And fortunately, because now I saw it there. Okay, so the next one was, this is one of those ones that I was saying that I will pick up different ones when I see them. This is The Fall of Shannara, The Black Elf Stone by Terry Brooks. So, the Shannara series, the famous fantasy series, a number of different sub-series within the series. This is later on. So this is one that I haven't read any of them, but I want to someday. So I have a few of them, and I just, at different book fairs, or probably mostly at this book fair over the years, when I see different ones, I'll just pick them up, and when I put together at least some of the originals, I'll start reading those. Okay, then we found a couple of science fiction anthologies. So this first one is Science Fiction Showcase. This is edited by Mary Kornbluth. I think in the 50s. This was 1959. This was put together, and this was apparently, this has a few, some famous science fiction writers in it. Philip K. Dick, Robert Bloch, Richard Matheson, Frederick Paul, Theodore Sturgeon. They're a bunch, and this was apparently an homage to C.M. Kornbluth, and Mary Kornbluth was his wife. And after he had died, this was apparently they put this anthology together right afterwards, apparently as in his honor. Another one is the Giant Anthology of Science Fiction. I'm sure that this had a dust jacket at one time, anyway. So this was in 1954, and this is a bunch of this is an anthology of short stories that appeared in some other science fiction magazines that I actually hadn't heard of, or some of them I hadn't heard of. There is an Astounding Science Fiction one from Astounding Science Fiction Stories, but most of these stories were from a magazine apparently called Thrilling Wonder Stories, and there's a few from Super Science Stories, which these are, I guess, old science fiction magazines that I never heard of. But so this definitely looked like an interesting one to get. And then this one we picked up, another science fiction anthology. This is Unknown Worlds, Tales from Beyond. And this also has some famous people, Robert Bloch again, Theodore Sturgeon again, Fritz Leiber, Robert Heinlein, and a bunch of others. And this is a collection of short stories from Unknown Worlds magazine. Which I've never read any Unknown Worlds magazine. There's so many old science fiction magazines that have gone defunct now. It's a shame, and a lot of them I haven't even heard of. Okay. All right. I don't know if I keep maybe getting too close to the mic. Okay. So sorry if the sound gets all messed up. All right. So the next one is, I had never heard of this book before. This is Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. Really know very little about this, but I grabbed it because I'd never heard of it before. So if you know about it and you have any thoughts on it, definitely let us know. This is it's supposedly a bit of I guess a metaphysical or philosophical novel that I think told from a perspective of somebody that's called the underground man that lives in a basement and is lamenting society. I guess he's criticizing the ideals of an idyllic utopian society, utilitarian society. I guess he's criticizing that, and that's really all I know about it. But I don't know how I was going to not pick that up. Okay, the next one. This is called The Revisionist by Miranda Wells. This I had never heard of, and I picked this up just because it looked really bizarre. It's really short, and it's like a fable, and it even has some pictures in it. I don't know if you can see that. It's not throughout, but I mean it's not tons of pictures, but they are throughout, and it just looks really bizarre, and I think it's told in a post-apocalyptic world where somebody, I think an unreliable narrator is like watching over the city, and but revising, almost like a 1984 type of fable, like revising some of what's happening, revising the facts, and I don't know. I don't know much about it, but it looked very bizarre and it looked so short that I figured pick it up and give it a try. Okay, next we picked up Never Let Me Go by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Kazuo Ishiguro. And this is a famous bestseller. It's been turned into a movie now. And is Booker Prize finalist. And this was about, it's about some children that were in an orphanage, like that, was for special people, but really what they are is they're there just to be harvested for organs. And then you see them in the future, and I don't know how much back and forth there is. I don't know too much about it, but that's basically what it was. Where I think they're revisiting their childhood in the orphanage. Okay, next one we picked up is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. And so again, very famous book. Apparently very violent, and this, I guess, follows a 14-year, basically the old expansion into the West, and this follows a 14-year-old as he's witnessing the very violent environment of, lots of Indians getting killed, and I think by the border, and market for Indian scalps, and apparently it's a very tough read. But I've heard a bunch of people mention this, talk about this one, and so I was interested in reading it. This is one of those ones that was on the extended TBR, so I'm glad I saw it there. Okay, the next one is Pygmy by Chuck Palahniuk. And a bunch of Chuck Palahniuk books, not all of them, but a good group, and I've read some of them. If you don't know, Chuck, he's the author of, Chuck Palahniuk is the author of Fight Club, which was turned into the famous Brad Pitt, Edward Norton movie, which was awesome. If you haven't seen that, you should go see that. That's a great movie. But so this is, sorry, we didn't have this one. This one, when did this come out? This came out in 2009. And this is about, I don't know too much about it. It's about a group of adolescents that are sent from some totalitarian state to infiltrate the U.S. as pretending to be exchange students, and they're planning some mass terrorist attack. So it sounds like a lot of sort of just an extreme fantastical take set in modern times, like typical of Chuck Palahniuk's works. Okay, and so this one I wanted to get my hands on for a long time. I'm probably the only one left that hasn't read this, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. And this is, like I said, I think everybody's read this but me. This is a famous, more recent book. What year did this come out? Just a few years ago. 2020. And supposedly this is a very heartwarming book about a guy that's sent to there's an orphanage on an island with a group of magical children that's run by a special headmaster, and it's apparently a very heartwarming story and about, found family, and so apparently it's phenomenal. People cry when they read this book, so I will read that soon. Okay, and then we picked up a few graphic novels. Now, don't switch off. I say that because it seems like a lot of times a lot of people in the book community that are interested in hearing about books then have no interest. They hear graphic novel or comics, and they think that it's just like Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, the Hulk. I'm not interested in superhero stuff. I say this just because that's kind of what I thought, is some years, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, like before I really got into it a lot again, because when I was a kid, it was all superhero stuff. And so if you don't know, it's not that way anymore. And a lot of graphic novels or trade paperbacks have nothing to do with superheroes. Some do, and they're right, and there obviously plenty do, but I mean there are some that are sort of all different kinds of superhero stories. But there are also tons of comics these days that are like they're good science fiction stories, horror stories, even some fantasy stories, and some other types of fiction. Not a ton of those, but and so a lot of these are like some of these are like it'll be like a really good. It's just like reading a really good science fiction novella, but there's some illustrations to go with it. I just wish maybe people wouldn't be so dismissive of these things today. There's technically there's what's technically a trade paperback, which are the volumes that come out they take let's say there was 10 issues of a series that came out, and they put them in a large paperback form. That's the trade paperback. But there are also original graphic novels, right? Which those are that's technically what graphic novels are, where their story first appears in a full book form. So anyway, now having said that, we got a few of those. So this is the first one we got is Watchmen. So I just forget what I just said about superheroes, right? But this is think about, I don't know if you've watched The Boys on Amazon, totally different kind of superhero story. This is not quite The Boys, but same sort of thing. This is a very different kind of. It does involve superheroes, but most people probably know about this by now. It's been a movie and it's been a cultural phenomenon, but this is about, yes, a group of superheroes that have kind of, it's an alternate history timeline because these superheroes were around, and this is kind of later in life and their fall from grace. And so this is, a lot of times this is considered, even though it's a graphic novel, like one of the 100 best science fiction novels out there. So I already had this, but this is a different version. There have been a few different versions. As you can see, it doesn't even say Watchmen on there. This is just the iconic picture from the Watchmen. But this is the one that they just called the new edition that came out in 2014, and this has a lot of like the recoloring of stuff that had come out in a previous Absolute edition or something, but also a bunch of bonus material. So you can see it's very thick because there's a lot in this. So we picked it up because it was a different version. Okay, the next one is, and this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. This is a trade paperback of Day Tripper by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba, and this is a collection of the comics, and this is about a guy that he is a writer, and he pens people's obituaries, I think, but it's about his life though, where you see different important days in his life, but he dies at the end of each one, and then you see the next one and he doesn't have any knowledge of his previous death or deaths. So this was really acclaimed. This was a bestseller. This was an acclaimed one that we never read, so we picked that up. The next one is The Sandman, The Doll's House. This is volume 2. So we have never read any of The Sandman, which is shameful. We need to, and so I've just started to we have a few of these now. I've started to put together a set of different Sandman ones, especially now that the show is out, and I'm going to read these before I'm going to watch the show, so I need to get moving. Okay, then the next one is The Last Temptation by Neil Gaiman and Michael Zulli. And I don't know much about this, but this is it's black and white. And I think it's kind of a little fairy horror fantasy story where this boy Stephen goes to like a carnival or fair or something, and he meets this the showman of this theater, and then he's not able to leave, and he gets wrapped up in all this, and that's pretty much all I know about it. But reading about it, it made me think of I'm sure I saw a show recently, like a creep show or one of these horror shows recently that I think involved a showman, and I don't know if it's the same thing. If anybody knows, tell me. I can't remember what the name, if it was like the Haunting Hour or something. I saw it on something like not that long ago, I think. But anyway, Okay, now for actual superhero, we did get one. This is The Death of Superman. This is a famous story arc back in the 90s about, the death of Superman. So this collects that from various different crossover comics. Okay, the next one we saw, this was totally different. This is a comic of Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. So this just seemed really cool. Art seemed really cool. So yeah, I mean, we'd love to read a comic version of The Merchant of Venice. So pick that one up. Okay, now this one, Technophage by Neil Gaiman. I had never heard of this. Know nothing about it. I think it's really more meant for kids. But it's Neil Gaiman. The art looked pretty cool. And so I just picked it up. It's the Technophage, a 65 million year old reptile, holds the keys to the universe. I don't know. Uses psychic powers, wormholes, everything. It sounds like just everything fantasy and sci-fi. So I don't know. It probably can't be bad. Okay, and then we picked up John Constantine, Hellblazer, Original Sins. And so if you know, I don't know if you know anything, if you've seen the show Constantine, or there was some movies Constantine too with Keanu Reeves, but basically it's in the DC imprint. Sometimes it's been DC. It's been done a couple times. Sometimes it's DC, sometimes it's Vertigo. But he's not really a superhero per se. This guy he basically does battle with, he dabbles in the dark arts, dark magic, and he fights, the denizens of he fights demons and ghosts and things like that. And so it's really more of like a horror comic book. And so this one puts together when Constantine first got his own series as a character. Like most, I think he first appeared in Swamp Thing, but this is when he was first getting a series in the late 80s, and so this is like the first 9 or 10 issues. Okay, and then the last one is Batman Noel. And who is this? Who is this by? Lee and Bermejo? Lee. Oh my God, this is horrible. I should know this already, but anyway, this is. I mean, the art on this looks just looks incredible. I mean, you could tell just from the flap. And this is a Batman. This is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. This is a Batman version, essentially, and that's all I know about it. But so I actually bought this once before to read it at Christmas. Like I say, I like to read Christmas themed stuff then, and I accidentally bought the version in German. So that was no good to me because I don't speak German. So anyway, I was excited to see this hardcover copy there, and yeah. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too long. That's everything. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you get notified the next time Olive says it's okay to upload another video. Thanks for coming by. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.